Good morning and welcome to Moneyline with Nancy, broadcasting live from Abuja. I am Nancy Nnaji. Today, we turn our attention to one of the most consequential reform debates in the country today, state police, the political economy of Nigeria's security reform. Here is the number that starts this conversation. One police officer for every 650 Nigerians, well below the UN standard of 1 to 450. For decades, that gap has been the subject of the same conversation going nowhere. Just a few weeks ago, the National Assembly voted in favor of the establishment of state police, and this will now sit before 36 states' houses of assembly, and it needs 24 to say yes before it becomes part of our constitution. But the push for state police has moved beyond the security conversation. It is now a debate about federalism, fiscal responsibility, constitutional safeguards, democratic accountability, and whether decentralized policing can deliver better security without creating new risk or political abuse. The bill lets governors, of course, appoint their own police commissioners, but also gives the president the power to take that command back whenever he decides circumstances justifies it. Critics call that a loaded clause. Supporters call it a necessary safeguard. Security is not just a constitutional right, it is an economic asset. Insecurity has choked our agricultural supply chains, depressed foreign direct investment, and strained state budgets. But decentralization isn't a silver bullet. How do states, many already struggling with fiscal sustainability, fund a modern, well-equipped police service? How do we navigate the terrifying tightrope of political control, human rights safeguards, and the persistent warning that structural policing cannot fix deep-seated economic poverty? As analysts continue to say that none of this matters if we don't also fix the poverty driving young people into crime in the first place. So can Nigeria design a system that improves public safety while preserving the rule of law? Who pays for it? Who controls it? And who holds it accountable? Is this federalism finally arriving, or 36 new opportunities for political abuse? After the break, I'll be joined by Honorable Aneke Umana, Commissioner for Information, Akwa Ibom State, Dr. Charles Omole, Director General of the Institute for Police and Security Policy Research, Dr. Sam Amadi, Associate Professor and Director of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, and Johnson Chukwu, Group Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Kari Asset Management Limited, as we examine the security, constitutional, and economic implications of this reform. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy TV, and follow us across all our social media platforms, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. And of course, if you missed today's live broadcast by any form, in case you're out of the house, or perhaps you're even watching us online as we speak, you can catch the replay at 1 a.m. That should be Wednesday morning for those of us that are nocturnal. All right, let's take a short break, and when we return, we'll begin this robust conversation. Stay with us. Why do we continue to import what we can produce? Talking about cocoa, for instance, is it a policy failure, or is it a private sector failure, or is it a policy failure that has caused private sector to fail? And I'm glad that you said you are meeting tomorrow with stakeholders. What exactly will you people be talking about that will move the needle? Because we've heard talk. Honorable Minister, don't tire to the talk. You know, talk. I've been saying these things for close to 20 years. Things refuse to change, or they just change at snail speed. Over to you, sir.
Not so like you, I'm also tired of talk. And those who engage me, who encounter me in the course of my work, would know readily that, I mean, it's, I'm more about, what impact can be created. I'm more about how can we move from the talk to the do, to the action, to the actual performance. And my answer to that question will begin with the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu first needs to be commended. Why do I say so? It's under his presidency and his leadership that we even have a chance to now have a Nigerian industrial policy. We've not had one in decades. And I think that the hallmark, of that policy is...
This is Moneyline with Nancy, and this is a program that sets your business day for you.
Inflation played a 9-1 on us, and the cost of doing business and the cost of living crisis persists. But we can win. We can win on those two things.
We need to work on our infrastructure, maintain what we have, and add new infrastructure. Isn't it interesting to you that it still costs less to ship something from China to Lagos than from Dakar to Nigeria?
Resilience is not only bouncing back when there is crisis or shock. Resilience is about the ability to adapt, the ability to innovate, the ability to thrive in a VUCA world, which is basically a world that we have a lot of vulnerabilities, a world that we have a lot of uncertainty.
Thank you, Nancy. You've been doing a great job in trying to educate Nigerians, and we must appreciate you for that.
Everybody tells me you're the gold standard in this business, yeah.
Nancy Naji, for the best you can be, and good at change. All right, welcome back. Let's begin our conversation. Dr. Charles Omole is joining me, Dr. Sam Amade, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, as well as Honorable Umanao will also join me. So I have gentlemen today. Blessed am I in the midst of gentlemen. Welcome to you all. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. Dr. Charles Omole, let me begin with you because you research policing or security for a living, at least lately. Let me begin by asking you if this discussion around state police will significantly, or how significantly will it alter Nigeria's security architecture? Or would it merely redistribute the existing weakness that we have, bearing in mind that the federal police is a model, as it were, because I'm not seeing any new thinking around remodeling the state policing architecture. So wouldn't it be redistributing existing weaknesses?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. That's an excellent question. And I think that actually is going to determine whether this succeeds or not. It depends on how it's implemented. For example, you were given the statistics earlier about the UN recommended ratio. You see, that ratio, I've always told people, is wrong when it actually comes to Nigeria.
Okay.
I mean, for example, I did a simple analysis just sometime last year. I did Egyptian police and what Egyptian police, what they do, their top 15 duties. By the time I mapped it to Nigeria, I ended up with 9 different agencies in Nigeria doing what one Egyptian police does. So when we talk about policing in Nigeria, in terms of that number, I mean the NST, the Civil Defense, ICPC, CCB, EFCC, FRSC, Forest Guard, all that, that's about 250,000 personnel that are not counted in these statistics. So these statistics really use just the Nigeria Police Force. And that comes to the crux of your question. What actually are we devolving? Are we devolving policing, or are we devolving Nigeria Police Force? There's a distinction between those two. Because if we are devolving Nigeria Police Force, then we are going to have difficulty. Because there's going to be some imbalance in the system. Let me give you a typical example. Currently, all private security firms in Nigeria are licensed, managed, and supervised by the civil defense based on the law.
Yeah.
So when we now have state police, you're going to have a state governor that can control his own police, that can control his own police service in the state, but we have no control over the security guard guarding the store next door. That will still be federalized. So you can see the inconsistency there. So really, and I've mentioned this several times in my contribution, that maybe this is a good time to actually look at what I call internal security reform. And some reforms should precede this devolution of power, so to speak, in terms of policing. Otherwise, we may unwittingly be devolving dysfunction, so to speak, if we don't reform the police as it is before we devolve it. If we are merely handing over a small version of the Nigeria police force, then we are in real difficulty.
Okay, let me come to Dr. Sam Amadi. You've listened to what Dr. Mole has just said, that perhaps the data may not be as accurate if we take other security agencies involved. But do you think that this conversation is complete? Are we looking at the issue of federalism or the issue of law enforcement? All right, Dr. Amadi, can you hear me? Yes, go ahead.
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, so let me ride on what Omele has said, which makes a lot of sense to me. So first, there is a conversation around, of course, the size of the Nigerian police versus the size of policing institutions, different thing. But the more important for me for this conversation is the discussion around what are we reforming? Is this a reform of federalism or a reform of policing or even weapons? So why is it important? There's a debate around federalism in the sense of division of power to states and creating, aligning state sovereignty in the Constitution to performance. So the states have the right to have their own police, have the right to have their own different issues. Those are issues around federalism. But the issue of police reform, interestingly, the first work I did when I came up from credit studies from abroad was the issue around how should we reform the police. And I look at it from three perspectives. First is, what is the problem with the police? How is it underperforming? You look at the history, the DNA of policing, right from the time of the colonial era, how the police was set up. Look also at the issue around the DNA suggests the orientation of the police, and then the governance structure. The fact that too much political control, the police council. So you're trying to reform the police to be first operationally efficient, in which case the IG of police or the commissioner of police would be in charge of decisions around policing. You also want to create accountability so that police malfeasance or misconduct has a more civilian process of accountability. You always want to create a policing that is fair, not subject to abuse. So if those are the concerns, the what we are doing is not the right way. Like you rightly pointed out, you made the best point. We talk about replicating, the pathology of police in 36 states. So what I see going on now is a reform around federalism. Who controls the police? Should it be the president or the state governor? It's okay, share it. The federal police controlled by the president, the state police controlled by the state governor. But we are not dealing with the issue around what is it that we are, how do we reform policing as an activity? And when I would do this job under a leader, I suggested three things. First, I said police service instead of police force. And they love to take to court, so nonsense. The idea is to remap what you consider the mapping of the police. So the police must say a service to the people. I was in Surrey Road to train the police for 2 weeks. They did not answer civilian police service, not force. Arising from the crisis they had, they now approached their police as a civil service to deal with protecting life and liberty, not as a regime protection, which is what we had from DNA from the colonial. So whether you make it like government police, you are having the same police that is focused on protecting those in power, that is controlled by either the president or the governor, that the commissioner of police or the IG is basically an adjunct executing the president's directive, as even the Constitution says. These are the issues we should be dealing with. So for me, I think this is typical of how we do reform. Reform is, we solve the wrong problem. We don't do diagnostics. First, we start with what really do we want to have with police? Again, insecurity crisis is not necessarily a police problem. Because some of those relate to real terrorism attack, which maybe involve other frontline, security platforms. The question is that Nigerian police is both roguish, undisciplined, inefficient, corrupt. Do solve that problem by transferring control from president to governors. So these are the big questions we're not dealing with. And for me, I think this is a journey in the wrong direction.
All right. Doctor, thank you for your input there. And part of why I constituted this panel, which I consider an excellent panel, is because the debate I've been hearing around state police in the last few weeks, I wouldn't say is very microscopic or myopic. Like in my intro, I did talk about who pays for it, who benefits, how are these weaknesses or the pathology of these existing weaknesses going to be spread. So that is why I actually put up this excellent panel. I think the Commissioner for Information is on right now. Honorable, are you with me? Can you hear me? So that I would like to, okay, you're with me. Honorable, can you hear me? If you can hear me.
I can hear you very well, very loud and clear.
Yes, good. I see you on the move, but thank you.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, thank you. Now, I will want to ask.
I'm on the move, but that's fine. I can do this from here.
Yes. If governors eventually control state police, where should political authority end and operational independence begin? Because the fear is around political authority that the governors will already empowers in their states will have more power. They can exert that power even against their enemies. They can lock somebody up for years, as it were, until their tenure ends. Then I would like to speak with you also, or to get your views as to if recruitment prioritizes indigenous residents who understand local communities, or should states deliberately recruit beyond ethnicity to avoid institutional bias? Because there is that conversation that, if they recruit someone from my state, that person knows the nook and crannies of the state. But we also know that ethnicity bias can come in. And there are also discussions. I was speaking with the Commissioner of Police at the time, and he said, Nancy, if I go to a certain place and I'm there for like 5-10 years, I know the existing terrain. The issue is about feeding me with equipment and infrastructure for rapid response. So you getting someone from your ethnicity, does it take away that institutional bias, and does it take away the lack of infrastructure or lack of well-equipped equipment that the police have been talking about since?
Yes, Nancy, thank you very much for signing me on. First, I want to thank you for this conversation, and to also say here that there have been a lot of confusing signals and people saying different things from different sides, and rightly so, because when a new thing is in the offing, there's need for that variety of opinion, and so we can shape it all well. But from a purely constitutional standpoint, and the amendment being proposed by the National Assembly, in my opinion, is to create, from what we have seen, is to create a state police across the 36 states, and of course they will work side by side with the federal police and so on and so forth. Yes, beyond all of this conversation, what matters is that how do you make a state, say a state governor is the chief, if there's a chief security officer of a state, and he has no authority as to who is responsible for the security operations in that state, and he has nobody that is liable to him or reporting to him directly in totality in the matter. And that's how to look at this thing. Because you can't ask someone to be a chief security officer and then he lacks the powers to even control or know who is responsible. So we have to look at all this. When a new thing is coming here, people could have fears and so on. But for me, I don't really see that fear, because it's about the person, it's about the law, and the law should be bigger than any individual, in my opinion. So I don't think there's any need for this fear. What matters more at this point should be how we can keep this country safe, how we can keep our states safe, how we can keep our local governments safe. from all of the problems. So in Akwa Ibom State, for instance, we have a system that is helping us stay safe. There's so much integration of local security network into the intelligence system. Very recently, if you have followed, you would see that the governor of Akwa Ibom State integrated the village youth presidents, 2,272 of them, into the security architecture in the state to essentially be part of the Ibom community work to provide intelligence and work with the police. So I do not think there's any need for fear. Let us begin to look at models that have worked and continue to fine-tune this thing and strengthen our federalism. Strengthen our federalism to the extent that state authority to do the things that will enable these states live well. We have seen examples in the United States. I've also had in the other places. So I think it is something that we must look at very critically, and then look at the position of the Nigerian Governors Forum and all the merits. Of course, everything has its merit and demerit, and look more towards the merit in the interest of the peace and security of the nation.
Okay.
So in my
Okay, I think, Honorable Mana, your points have been taken. Let me come to Mr. Johnson Chukwu. Every institutional reform has an economic price tag to it. You know, there's a cost to everything, and that's why you're also on this panel.
I think, are you there?
Okay, Honorable.
Nancy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Honorable Mana. Yes, your point has been well noted. Still stick with us. I'm coming over to Mr. Johnson Chukwu on the next question. Mr. Chukwu, like I mentioned, security is highly capital intensive. Every reform has an economic price tag to it. Do you think that as a country, or before the president even talked about this bill, do you think that Nigeria has adequately calculated the full cost of establishing 36 state police organizations? That's one. The second one is, should every state automatically qualify to establish a state police? And I'm talking from the money point of view. You understand what I'm talking about. Forget that they are getting FAC now because there's fuel subsidy removal. There could be a time that all will go to $20. Do you understand? So which state would qualify to pay to establish a state police? Then the other question I want to drop for you also is that, should the revenue allocation formula change if states assume policing responsibilities?
Okay, thank you, Nancy, for paneling these eminent discussants on this issue of state police. What I will say to the questions you asked are these. Let me start from, should we modify the revenue allocation formula to the 3 tiers of government? And I would say no, it's too early in the day to begin to think of that. It is just not just that we're asking states that they have the liberty to set up a state police that would make us modify the revenue allocation formula. The current revenue allocation formula already give a reasonable level of resources to the states, particularly revenue that can be traced to their source of their state of their state as source of production of those or generation of those revenue, for instance, VAT. As it relates to whether we are calculating the cost of having 36 state police commands, state police authorities, as well as the federal police. What I will say to you, Nancy, is that currently a number of the states are largely funding state police operation in their states. The federal police is grossly, and I repeat, grossly underfunded. And we cannot continue doing the same thing that is not giving positive results and expect anything to change. The federal government resources, given the current expenditure profile of the federal government of Nigeria, will never be enough to meet some of these social needs, including policing. Part of what we're seeing today, degeneration and insecurity, is because of lack of economic resources at the state level or lack of prioritization. So, but the state governors have a compelling need to secure their states, to attract investment, because for you to attract investment in your local state, you must have a reasonable level of security in your state. And I know for sure that many states largely fund police operation in their state. Nancy, what we have today is that if you go to a divisional police office and you have a police case or a case you report or criminal activity, And even a lot of times they will tell you they don't have the resources to come and effect the arrest. They don't have the vehicles. So you realize that the state governments are already providing the vehicles. The state governments are buying the bulletproof vests and even giving them subvention for buying bullets. And if you do not provide a vehicle, you realize policemen going on official assignment to effect arrest, hire buses. I mean, it happens here in Lagos. I don't know what happens in Abuja. They hire buses, commercial buses, and to go and effect arrest. So what I'm saying in effect that the current structure of the federal police has not allowed the federal government to properly fund the police. So we need to look for an alternative to what we have today. And that would be to now devolve this authority to the state government that says, say, look, you can also fund police. The fears we have, we can build checks and balances. We already have concerns about the abuse of the authority of the state executive in terms of giving authorities to the police authority within their state against perceived political opponents. We can build safeguards, which means we have to rebuild our political system from this ground up and make sure that the checks and balances built in the federation, in the republic are built in our own system, where you have the legislature as a counterbalancing arm of governance that stop the executive from going beyond their authorities. You have the judiciary to adjudicate on abuses and ensure that sanctions are imposed where they are. That's one of the concerns we have about the abuse of this, the state police authorities. But the reality is that the federal government has failed woefully. And if you look at our the finances of the federal government, it is not likely that we build the resources tomorrow to fund effectively police dispersed across the 36 states of the federation. So, and I know, I can give you live examples. Rivers State under Rotimi Amechi, the government funded the police, funded their training outside the country, equipped them, and I knew that then Rotimi Amechi, as governor of Rivers State, was complaining that after training this police and they become more effective in the discharge of their job, they are transferred to other states. And I also know a couple of states that are currently funding police operation in their states. So what concern may be that would not all the states have equal resources to fund state police? And that's where the federal government comes. Where they are states that do not have the economic resources to fund appropriately, they will now move resources, federal resources, to support those states.
Federal resources from where? Federal resources from where? There's an existing police trust fund which your company, my company, everybody contributes to. You know?
Okay.
So yes,
okay,
very quickly, 30 seconds.
I mean.
Yes.
This is what I mean. They are states that may not have adequate manpower, adequate resources to deploy enough manpower in their local states. So what they do is that for states that are properly funded by their state or properly policed by their state authorities, the federal government can reduce the federal police presence in those states and move them to states that are underfunded and underpoliced.
Okay, Dr. Omole, let me come to you now. Of course, you've listened to what Mr. Johnson Chukwu has said. I just want to ask you very quickly if you think that all the states in Nigeria are institutionally prepared for decentralized policing today, yes or no? Then I'll ask you my next question.
Oh, no. I don't think any of them are prepared. Maybe by prepared, I'm looking at it beyond just financial. If it's financial, a few might be prepared. But if you are talking of holistically, I don't think any of them is prepared. For once you have state police, they will have to, part of the institutional safeguard that needs to happen, otherwise we're going to replicate at the state level the dysfunction we are at the federal level. Even though Section 214 of the Constitution says that shall only be one police force in Nigeria and all parts thereof. You and I know how the federal government have created in successive governments, created several policing institutions to replicate the job of the police against the constitutional norms. So if we don't have properly safeguarded devolution, we're going to have state police, and then the state governors, if they feel they can't control the police, we now set up paramilitary like they have Amotekun, all kinds of whatever. They will set it up in their states to compete with the police because they can control those ones better than they will control the police. So it's important, therefore, that we say if you're taking down state police, you must not have any other policing institution in your state. Everything must go through the police institution in that state.
Okay.
So that needs to happen, but any of them ready? I don't think so. Not now.
Okay. Now, dovetailing from what you said, do you think that you've seen adequate stakeholder consultation on this issue of policing. And that is why I constituted this panel today. Let me give you an example, like the tax reforms that we had. Taiwo Yedele now happens to be the Minister of Finance. Do you think that this security or police reforms need that kind of consultation and full stakeholder engagement, whereby you look at every fragment so that we don't distribute weaknesses or we don't redistribute the pathology, just like Dr. Amadi has said, the pathology of weakness, the pathology of bureaucracies? That's one. Then the second question for you is that if we take a look at countries like the US, Canada, India, they operate decentralized policing. What model do you think that we should operate? What should we avoid? What mistakes should we avoid? Or should we have a policing system that is purely Nigerianized without looking at any model?
Well, I mean, thank you. Well, in terms of, which model we should take, there are different, policing model globally. I mean, like you said, you mentioned United States. There are about 19,000 police departments in the U.S. where everybody can set up their own police, departments in the U.S. But of course, sitting on top of that is the Department of Homeland Security that makes sure in a way that's complete interoperability, where they can harvest data from all those 19,000 units. Then you have a place like United Kingdom that have some form of devolved police, about 46 police constabulary, but now they want to reduce that to about 20 and centralize some of their policing function. So you can see they are going in the other direction. So there is no one size fits all policing model that works for everybody. But I think in Nigeria, state police probably the right way to go in terms of balance, because some people are talking about local government police and all that. I'm not quite sure that's necessary in a country like Nigeria. So for me, I think that's the key. In terms of model, I would say we should Nigerianize it, which is state police and federal police. Now, the challenge is in terms of the culture, is in terms of how the two of them will work together. And I think this now sits at the crux of the challenge of state policing. And that is the fact that many governors are forgetting the fact that this is just one of several elements of the criminal justice landscape. If you have state police, it will impinge on the way criminal justice is administered in that state. Just a simple example, state prison, for example. Even though 6 years ago, Buhari signed a constitutional amendment that allowed for states to have their own prison, not one state have established a prison since. So, because what happens, over 90% of crimes in Nigeria are state crimes. Yeah. So you can't have somebody commit a state crime, prosecuted by state police, and then sent to federal prison. It doesn't work like that. So states will have to either establish their own prison, or if they're going to send their convicts to federal prison, they will now begin to pay the federal government for housing that prisoner. So the costs are, much more than just having police officers. And I think in terms of whether there should be wider consultation, I agree. This is something I've raised many times myself, that the Taiwo Oyedele model should have been followed. But the comment from government is that what they are doing at the moment is just constitutional amendment. When it comes to the actual bills that we operationalize state policing, that there will be wider consultation along that line. I mean, for that one to happen. So I think that maybe that's a good balance. Okay, so let me come over to Dr. Amadi. When we're talking about balance now, how should the Constitution balance democratic oversight with insulation from partisan politics? This question is to Dr. Amadi. And there was also something that I wrote down here, Doctor. Is this bill being driven by a genuine ideological commitment to restructuring, or is it a political accommodation to keep governors loyal to the center ahead of 2027? Because it seems that the speed doing this, I cannot also understand it. Just a few months to the election, and this bill or this reform needs to be painstakingly thought through.
Well, I think, unfortunately, it is politics, stupid. Okay.
Yes, James Carville.
Yeah, it's politics.
Yes.
Again, the key point here is political office holders maximize political outcomes are oftentimes against economic, social outcomes. So, to get it straight first, the constitutional issue. Two different bills passed. People forget that. The House of Reps passed a bill that was more detailed about state police and built in some of these structures and safeguards and several things. While that bill was still pending in the Senate, the federal government, the presidency rushed another bill, which the Senate passed. And that bill is skeletal. It focuses on constitutional amendment to authorize subnational police force. So two different bills. So they're not coming to what they call committee of the whole to now try and reconcile committee. From a legal scholar's perspective, it's arguable whether they can harmonize two different bills. But usually what happens is the same bill goes through the two chambers and come out with variant recommendations. And because they have to pass a unified or harmonized bill, they harmonize. But this one is two different bills. One private member bill filed, sponsored by Deputy Speaker. The other one, executive bill by the government of Nigeria. And they rushed it, and the Senate in a few days, in fact, in one day, we went through the various stages and passed it. That speaks to political expedience. Is it for good, for bad? We will not conclude. Again, the timing of it, with many people have raised issue, particularly Chino Bekala has talked about, shouldn't we freeze it until election because of the history of election? In a book written by the only black Nobel laureate, Anton Lewis, in 1965 or thereabout, to West Africa, he made a very important point around how the police was being used in Western Nigeria, across West Africa, to suppress opposition. We have not moved away from that. And that answers to the question of ideology. You see, the state formation in Africa, what Babdani called legacy of late colonization. The police was that one instrument of governmentality that was shaped against the people, not developmental. And so what I've been arguing in police reform is that institutions have a DNA. It's not for nothing that the most distrusted institution in Nigeria, the police, the law enforcement institution, but they were designed colonially against the people and to bolster those in power.
Okay.
And that's why if the Nigerian police office goes to UNN peacekeeping, they do well because they are out of their DNA environment. But when they come here, the institution of policing, the norms, the orientation, the processes are designed to make police fail. And that's another point. I think Chukwu has a point around funding. Whenever we try to do police reform, the first thing police officers tell you, fund, barrack. They don't change the internal workings of the police. For example, oftentimes we hear about people taken to cell, they die there. Police have no process of documentation, no process of accountability. So I think that, yes, I agree that maybe we should give governors power over security, but probably amending and asking them to appoint their own commissioner. I heard the commissioner Okwabon talk about how can you be a state governor? You don't determine who is the commissioner of police. So they want that power to determine who is the commissioner of police. But the bigger problem is this, that how do you think around a new way of police operating so that you have first efficiency, and efficiency is not only about funding. Again, that was the issue that Omole said, very important. State capacity includes first capacity to raise revenue, taxation, whatever. Two, capacity for legal, institutional, and programmatic. And third, capacity for service delivery.
Okay.
The Nigerian states may have the financing. Do they have the regulatory, programmatic framework to run a police force that is going to be efficient and fair? Okay. Again, the other mix of ethnicity. So state police cannot become, Igbo police in Southeast or in Imo State, and maybe Ijaw police in Bayelsa. How do you create a constitutional safeguard? And that's why I would argue that if you want to go this process, then you create a constitutional amendment that first outline basic rules that each state must follow. That, these are safeguards, these are minimum standards, these are things, institutions for oversight, processes, recruitment, and that's what China tells us around federalism.
Yeah, okay.
The idea of what they call directed improvisation. People can improvise at the local level, but the federal government has to outline basic rules and models that condition to a uniform outcome, which is efficiency and fairness in
Okay.
our own constitutional language. So
Okay.
I think that the key point is that Nigerian reformers are lazy intellectually. They just think around problems as having, simple. You do a social science analysis, find the diagnostics, and then argue what is the likely outcome of these various models, and then create coherence. So what is missing is lack of coherence, lack of strategic thinking,
Okay,
lack
Dr.
of
Amadi.
rigorous analysis of this problem. And I feel that we're going to go back to square one after spending money and time.
Yeah. Okay, Honorable, let me come to you now. Assuming Akwa Ibom State passes its own police law tomorrow, I see it's like, yes, you are seated now. Thank you very much. You were on your way perhaps to the office.
Yes, thank you.
So,
thank you.
assuming Akwa Ibom State passes its own state police law tomorrow, where will the money for salaries, equipment, and all whatnot comes from without touching FAC? And don't talk to me about overburdening local businesses in Akwa Ibom. That's one. The second question for you is that governors are currently accused, heavily accused, of abusing funds, even local government funds. The Supreme Court ruling 2 years now. Many state governors are still doing the status quo. How do you now reassure a skeptic public and the business community that a state-controlled police force will not become a tool for regime protection, partisan intimidation, despite the clauses embedded in the bill? Over to you, Honorable, and very quickly, like in 2 minutes, because we are rounding up.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Nancy. First, I'd like to say that where there is the will, there will always be the way. Security is an expensive business at any point, any level. And right now, state governments, particularly in the case of Akwa Ibom, is funding security very heavily. Like Dr. Madi did say, for instance, security vehicles are provided by the state government. Gun boats are provided in Akwa Ibom. All the gun boats that are running in the water, protecting the waterways, are bought by the state government. Security trucks are bought by the state government. Even fueling of the fueling and diesel. So there's already an expense line going on for security very heavily. But it still takes me back to the point that you cannot be made the chief executive of an organization and you did not determine or control how that organization works. It doesn't happen anywhere successfully. So retweaking these models is what we need now. And we need to look at it from the standpoint of how it will work for the people. You've talked about local governments and so on. In Akwa Ibom State, we have a local government system that is working. And if you listen to the governor yesterday, he did say very clearly that he thanks the president for the local government autonomy, the strengthening of local government autonomy, because in our local government we have councils that are constructing roads, building schools, hospitals, and so on within local government areas. And we are pleased with that because they have more funds at their disposal. Once they take out salaries and all of the issues that will make the people have the comfort to work, they get into infrastructural development, and that's going on right now in the state. But coming to the issue of we cannot have a country of over 230 million people and with 370 to 400,000 policemen, which equates to about one policeman to about 600 to 800 people. So you can't find security in that model. So we must look at these things, look at the provisions of the law, and allow the conference committees of the National Assembly, both House and Senate, for what they pass, to come together, harmonize these bills to one, so we can get to the process of this constitutional alteration. And by the way, stakeholders consultation you talked about, of course, since these things are already there, there will be consultation across board, across the states, and you will also need to have the two-third majority of the two-third of the houses of assemblies in the 36 states of the federation to succeed with this constitutional alteration. So this process is not as simple as it is, but these are issues that we need to look at very carefully to ensure sure that we have security in this nation and allow subnationals to begin to take responsibility, just like you have issues like federal roads and all of those. They get dilapidated. You have state government fixing roads and all of those things and so on. Before you ever get attention to that place, perhaps one generation would have passed. So these are all the loopholes we need to plug and at this time, and allow the subnationals to work and make federalism to truly work for the people. This is my opinion.
Yeah, Mr. Chukwu, which should matter more? Is it money or institutions at this time? And then, if I heard you clearly the last time, you said that states can actually afford this state police now, and I'm actually wondering if they can currently finance salaries, pensions, equipment, forensic laboratories, technology, without undermining other priorities. Or should the states be permitted to impose what I call perhaps security taxes? Very quickly, sir, 1 minute. Yeah.
Okay, Nancy, let me say that both finance and overarching strategy are important. In terms of organizational capabilities, if you put money down and you don't have the resource capacity to put structures in place, you will still fail. Money will not do it on its own alone. So you need state government that will get built from some of the best governed, structured state police commands globally. The New York Police Department is one of the police department, the Los Angeles Police Department, one of the areas you can leverage and get information on how to build a state police structure in a federal system of government. You need the resources, you also need the managerial and leadership capabilities. In terms of imposing taxes, bear in mind that, Nancy, insecurity is a deterrent to economic investment. So if you have a secure state, you are likely going to attract investment. So it's all about prioritizing and having your long-term development plan. Your long-term development plan would include building the substructure that supports economic development, among which is security, quality of education, quality of healthcare, infrastructure. If you build those things, you are likely going to attract investment into your country. A small society like Dubai Emirates built a system that was very secure. If you commit any crime in Dubai, before you get to the airport, they will pick you up. And people were going there, investment was flowing into that region, and they built one of the most advanced economies in the world. So I still believe that state governments in Nigeria will, even with the limited resources they have, they can start by prioritizing what is more important, what is it that I will build that will lead, serve as a base for economic advancement. And I think that's where it's coming from. It's not about the money you have. You may have all the money in the world and not know what to do with it. But with little resources, you can build in an incremental format and allow investment that will overall, in the long run, support your continuous development.
Okay, so rapid fire, and I'll still stick with you, Mr. Chukwu, as I close this panel. Complete this sentence for me. State police will succeed only if
the state governments have the leadership capabilities to put the right structures in place.
Okay, so yours is leadership. All right, Dr. Omole, over to you. State police will succeed only if?
It succeeds only if the governors see that it's just one of the elements in the criminal justice chain and doesn't sit on its own. So as they are bringing in state police, it will affect the judiciary, the courts, the prison service, the entire gamut of the criminal justice system will need to be affected and reformed accordingly.
So let me still stick with you. Yes or no question. Should governors have operational control with what you've just said, Dr. Omole?
No. I mean, usually the thing is governors should have strategic control, not operational control.
Strategic, what do you mean by strategic? In just a few seconds.
For example, the governor can say, I want you to focus on armed robbery, because that's a major problem in this area of the state. That's strategic. Okay. How they actually do it should be left to the commissioner. That's operational. Okay. So that's a good example.
Okay. Because I was really intentional asking that question because we've seen, governors will just take over everything, or the commissioner may even be afraid and say, oh, until Oga speaks, so in the state capital, there's nothing I can do about it. So that's why I actually asked that question. Dr. Amadi, state police will succeed in Nigeria only if
it is designed to respond to properly diagnosed problems.
So would you vote for this bill today? the way it is? Apparently not.
No, I can vote for the Senate version that says it should be right. Then let's get back to discussion around how it should be structured and what should be the relationship between the federal and state police and what should be the process of transitioning. A big work to do down the line.
Honorable Mana, I don't want to say that I want to preempt your answer, but state police would only succeed if...
It's just what we need, rule of law. Once we're respecters of the rule of law, what is stipulated and we play by the rules, and that's it.
Okay, all right. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on the show today, at least for bringing in your perspectives. It's been such a comprehensive school of thoughts, as it were, you know, bringing in all sides of the matter, like I mentioned at the beginning of the program, for us to extend this conversation, looking at it constitutionally, economically, the state's perspective and security-wise. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll continue to follow this discussion, and let's see how it goes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. All right, I've been speaking with Dr. Charles Omole, Dr. Sam Amadi, Honorable Mana, and Mr. Johnson Achukwu. We've been looking at the political economy of the security reforms in the country, or the state police, because just like Dr. Omole said, we need to look at the whole security architecture. That's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. Thank you all for joining us. Please join us again. You know, this program is Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Africa Independent Television. I am Nancy Naji. Be the best you can be, but the change that you want to see. Bye for now.
The fall armyworm has caused devastating crop losses across Africa since it arrived in 2016 in Malawi at Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Biotechnology research scientist Kingdom Kwapata is leading studies into varieties of maize whose genes have been modified to resist the pest. Such engineered crops are considered genetically modified organisms or GMOs.
We needed a solution because our farmers are suffering. Our main purpose and aim for the research is to establish whether the gene that confers resistance against fall armyworms and other lepidopteran insects is effective.
The trials are expected to take about 5 years. They are conducted in a fenced and confined maize field 500 meters away from any traditional crop to avoid possible contamination with the traditional varieties. In the meantime, lawmakers, traditional leaders, and farmers have visited the trial site to observe its progress. Some farmers are excited about the trial, which is in its first year.
This will solve the problems of lack of money to buy pesticides to kill fall armyworms, which have affected my maize harvest for many years. And I am now a happy farmer because these trials are providing solutions to the problem.
Another subsistence farmer, Esther Ganjawala, is skeptical about the technology. She notes that replacing local maize varieties with high-yielding hybrids has created new troubles.
These new varieties are not good at all. You can't harvest anything without applying fertilizers, and they are easily attacked by pests. That's why there is growing poverty. But with our local varieties, we can harvest even without applying fertilizers.
Researcher Kwapata says genetically modified crops have been introduced safely elsewhere, including the United States, Brazil, and Argentina. But many in Malawi are concerned about possible health and environmental impacts.
So even though the target is to make sure the stalk borer doesn't attack the maize or the armyworms, but actually the introduction of this GMO will affect other beneficial insects such as bees and other birds. So that is something that we don't want. We don't want to disturb that cycle.
Ganier also fears that once introduced to farmers, the GMO maize would keep other local crops from growing. Kwapata says there is no evidence that would happen, but he acknowledges that people are concerned.
There's a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of political anxiety. But in the final analysis, as researchers, we are saying that the nation needs to give us a chance to do the research diligently, independently, without due influence.
Kwapata says the researchers will present the results of the trials only to government authorities so they can decide whether the GMO maize should be introduced in Malawi. Lamek Masina, VOA News, Lilongwe, Malawi.
Good day wherever you're watching. Imagine a community without security. Imagine critical assets left on the line. Imagine private guard with no one to guide. Imagine agro rangers missing from the field. Imagine VIPs unprotected in the crowd. When the nation calls, the civil defense responds. We stand in the gap, protecting our land and securing our future. Welcome to the Defenders program. This program is coming to you from the Civil of the Defenders TV of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps. And the program is aimed at highlighting the achievements of the Corps under the leadership of our Commandant General, Professor Hamid Abubakar Howdy, MNI OFR. I am Baba Wali Afalai.
Join us for the Defenders, the show that has ensuring a safer, stronger, and more prosperous Nigeria for all.
Civil defense, incidentally, is, like I say, it's an elitist organization that serves as a buffer to security agencies in the central security agencies, and we act sometimes like National Guard, So we are in the center because we are by our act globally, even globally, civil defense is supposed to provide what is called civil protection, civil protection, and perhaps maybe that's why Mr. President have now seen the reason why now that we should also be involved in VIP protection. So it is part of our function. And I tell you, we are poised and ready, to take this responsibility head on.
One of the cardinal points of our able Commandant General is training and retraining of personnel. What you see us doing here is our normal routine of training our personnel in different fields. We are conducting a training, a VIP protection training, and if you can see, you see that the men are in a very high spirit, good to go, ready at any time they are called upon. We will keep doing our best in giving them what we are supposed to give them, that will make them discharge their duty diligently, perfectly, packardly, and without any itches or problem.
What we have ongoing here is the course 003 for the VIP protection unit. We have 380 officers drawn from different formations of the Corps from 36 states, the FCT and the zonal commands. And they are going to be here for the next 4 weeks. The training comprises of the basic drills in VIP protections and weapon handling for officers that will be deployed for the VIP protection unit of the Corps. Now, at the end of this course, what we expect is that officers will be deployed to various VIPs in the country, and they'll be abreast with the latest tactics in the VIP protections and weapon handling.
The Corps has a mandate to protect all Nigerians, but the specific mandate of the VIP protection unit has to do with key persons who take critical decisions and formulate policies for Nigerians and other foreign nationals. There will be no discipline in our agency without training. It's the training that imbibes the culture, norms and tradition of doctrine of our agency.
It has been a wonderful experience here on the training for the VIP protection unit. The trainings have been rigorous. It has been a professional training that has upgraded a lot of my thoughts on security and how you carry your VIP along and build confidence in them.
I'm here because of the passion and also to build my future. I'm learning a lot here from drills, parade, and every other thing. I'm so happy to be here. I'm learning a lot, and it's wonderful.
I'm glad to be here. Trust me when I say VIP, I mean loyalty and trust. Our instructors are really doing real good job, and we are trying our possible best to catch up with everything they are teaching us.
Training has been rigorous, and we are planning to live up to the presidential directive on this protection of very important persons, and we hope that we'll be able to meet up with this mandate.
This training has embedded a new era, the operation of VIP NSCDC. Our appreciation goes to our amiable Commandant General, Professor Hamid Abubakar, MNI OFR, for his encouragement and always putting his strength and resources in the training of personnel. Right from the beginning, he emphasized the issue of training and retraining of personnel, and he has shown up at all times.
One of the problems we have centrally is funding. So, and we need to be funded very well so that we can. And many times we tell them that even we in the Corps, we don't need money. What we need is let them give us equipment. Give us equipment and then see what we will do. You know, give us the required equipment and then give us personnel. Now, you are asked to provide safety and security for schools. You are asked to provide safety and security for pipelines. You are asked to provide safety and security for telecommunication lines. So it is huge. Okay, so we need personnel. You know, once we have a reasonable number of personnel, if we can have additional 100,000, you know, and then we provide working tools for us. I tell you, the passion that the civil defense has to work for Nigerians and for Nigeria is going to be unprecedented.
Under President Nigeria.
Good afternoon, gentlemen of the press. I want to inform the public on the successful bust of an illegal mining site within Iragbiji area of the state. The command was able to apprehend 10 illegal miners at Idi Ogede, Ile-Isun community in Iragbiji, Osun State, and the equipment they used in perpetrating this illegality. I would like to reiterate that illegal mining remains a significant threat to environmental sustainability and our national security, as well as economic development. It deprives the government of legitimate revenue and endangers the life of our citizens, which also causes several environmental degradation. The activities uncovered at the site clearly demonstrates the extent to which individuals are ready to undermine the national interest for their own personal gain. Let me inform us that the Osun Command of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps will not tolerate this kind of activity. We will continue to intensify our efforts in apprehending other illegal miners. Also, we would like to warn those that are vandalizing telecommunication masts and transformers in the various communities of the state in recent times, that our men are on their toes, and very soon we will round them up. So we are sounding this note of warning to them to desist from these illegal criminal activities. We would also like to call on members of the public to join hands in ensuring we apprehend these criminals that are sabotaging the effort of the government in improving the economy of the state.
Every nation has a turning point, a moment when ordinary people rise to extraordinary purpose, not because they were asked to, but because they had to. For Nigeria, that moment came in the heat of conflict, when our unity was shaken and our people stood exposed.
The year was 1967. The Civil War has just begun. But even in the darkness, light emerged. From the rubble and fears, a group of brave Nigerians chose not to run. They chose to protect. No ranks, no rifle, only courage and convictions that every life matters. That was the beginning of what would become the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC.
From those humble efforts in Lagos, a volunteer force took shape, guiding citizens through sirens, shelter, and survival. By the 1970s, the movement gained structure, becoming the Lagos Civil Defense Committee, educating the public on emergency response and civil protection.
In 1984, it became the National Civil Defense Organization under the Ministry of Internal Affairs, now Ministry of Interior, playing vital role in disaster response, civil education, voluntary safety campaign across Nigeria. Still informal, still underfunded, but deeply respected.
In 2003, the National Assembly passed the NSCDC Act No. 2, legally establishing the Corps as a paramilitary institution empowered to protect lives, properties, and national infrastructures. The Act was later amended in 2007, further strengthening the corps with authority to bear arms, make arrests with or without warrants, and collaborate with other security agencies.
From volunteers to professionals, from whispers of hope to a structured civic shield, a corps born from crisis, now standing for peace. Under the pragmatic leadership of Professor Ahmed Abubakar Audi, MNI, OFR, the first professor to serve as the Commandant General, NSCDC entered a new era. Stronger training, smarter operations, and deeper community engagement. Across Nigeria, we now operate with discipline and direction through the elite formations like Agro Rangers, Safe School Initiative, Disaster Management, Anti-Vandalism, Female Squad, Mining Marshals, and Special Intelligence Squad, all serving with civility, compassion, and courage.
Beyond our borders, NSCDC is a proud member of the International Civil Defense Organization, ICDO, with its global headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. A corps connected to global standards, yet firmly rooted in Nigerian soil.
From the ashes of 1967 to the strength of today, our journey has been shaped by sacrifice, guided by service, and anchored in trust. We are not just a corps in uniform, we are your neighbors, your defenders, your bridge between peace and panic. We are the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, defending the defenseless.
The passing out parade of 17 trainees drawn from various private guard companies in Zamfara State forms part of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps mandate of regulating, supervising, and enhancing professionalism within the private security sector. Speaking at the event, the State Commandant Sani Mustafa, represented by the Deputy Commandant and Second in Command of the Command, and Muhammad Garba, said the training program had equipped participants with skills, knowledge, and competence required to effectively protect lives and property. He, however, expressed concern over the poor participation of companies, noting that only 10 out of more than 40 registered private guard companies in the state were represented at the training exercise.
I hereby wish to reiterate that those companies that fail to attend will face severe sanction as earlier stated and warned. Be informed also that the training and retraining program is a continuous exercise in batches, so as to give room for every guide to be trained.
The head of private guard companies department, Deputy Commandant of the Corps, Oile Samuel Tunde, said the training was organized to strengthen the operational capacity of private guards and ensure compliance with standards guiding private security practice in Nigeria.
This training is for us because when you are trained, you are better off than when you were not trained. So we want to challenge our companies that they should take the issue of training to be very, very important. We are not just here to waste time.
In their separate remarks, the representative of the chairman of Association of Registered Private Guard Companies in Zamfara State, the course representative Sunday Blazing, and other stakeholders commended the NSCDC for organizing the training and describes the program as an eye-opener that enhances participants' understanding of security operations.
I would like to appreciate the effort of the command by imparting training to our guards.
This has not only equipped me and my colleagues with knowledge and skills, but has also shaped our characters and has also prepared us to carry out our responsibilities with integrity.
High point of the ceremony was the presentation of awards and certificates to outstanding trainees and officers who distinguished themselves during the training program.
The PGC as a department that Nigeria is in charge of regulations of the private guard company. If someone wants to register a private guard company, one, somebody must be of the Nigerian citizen who has no criminal record.
all Nigerians with clear records, particularly those ones who have retired from the services of the military, paramilitary, and the security community, to such persons who have satisfied all these criteria, and then he writes an application to the Commandant General for license, which process, and then the DSS will interrogate, return back to the CG, and the CG recommends to the minister, who now license the private gas company. Kudos to my Commandant General. We have a total number of 1,740 companies that have been registered. Last year alone, over 80 companies were licensed. Monitor them through the state command and even at the headquarters here. Go to check if truly your license, because we want to make sure that these facts are off the state. Training is the NSDC's responsibility. We have a training institution at Abeokuta in the state, and that institution is an institution for training the allies of the PGC, that is the managing directors, the managers, the supervisors, who must continue to thank God and our leadership, right from Dr. Ade Abolori to Professor Ahmed Abubakar. They have done well as far as the PGC is concerned. You will recall that the PGC earlier on was under the Citizen and Business Department, Ministry of Interior. But when in 2005 it was added to the NSDC, and it has gone far. We have done a lot of things. The CG, Professor Ahmed Abubakar, has tried to make sure that he gets this PGC department promoted, whereby people supposed license who will now, instead of becoming the PGC now, you can online register your company and then get your license and then continue your practice.
You're welcome back. It's still your security program. Talk about the defenders. It will give you the happening how the Nigeria security and civil defense fall all over the federation. No gaps, no blind spots, just your strategy and security. And note that true security isn't just about fighting threats. It's about building a future where peace of mind is guaranteed. Let's get back into action. I'll be right back. Enjoy.
Nigeria, see waiting up here. Open mouth talk. Not keep quiet. Not throw away face. Not look the other side. As after all, they're not just you. Not cover anybody, destroy our future. Report vandalism to the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps.
What was meant to be a quick errand became a traumatic experience for 15-year-old Gloria Dige after she was allegedly lured away by two young men. The victim recounts how the incident unfolded.
And thank God, tell me say, give me the call, they got in. I follow and go as I can't say no, I don't follow and go as, and they drag me enter thank God room. They can't force me. They can't rape me. The two of them raped me 3 times. May I wake up this morning, say me I tell them, say they don't kidnap me, and the two of them kidnap me, say then they bring 800,000 naira.
Back home, panic set in as family members searched frantically for the teenager. Their fears deepened when unknown callers demanded 800,000 naira ransom for her release.
I now saw my wife number. The number just flashed. He ring and the thing just cut. So I now called the number with my phone. Say, hello, who is this? So they say they are kidnapper. That they have kidnapped my sister.
Acting on the information, NSCDC operative launched an intelligence-driven operation that led to the arrest of 16-year-old Freedom Saturday.
And I sleep with the girl. So I chop finish. Thank God I can't sleep with the girl finish. I can't enter the bed. I can't still sleep with her.
The Edo State Commandant of the NSCDC, Akintayo Ayinla, says the suspects remain in custody while investigations continue.
Upon receipt of the report, I directed officers to immediately activate intelligence and operational mechanism to locate the victim and identify those responsible. This led to the arrest of Freedom Saturday, 16 years, who provided information leading to the arrest of Thank God Oriabo, 21 years, at Obu community.
He warned criminal elements that the command will sustain intelligence-led operations to rid the state of crime.
In order to assist the state of the Federation, we have a command. being headed by commandants. And in all the 7 efforts for local government, we have our divisions being headed by divisional officers. And in 80% of all those divisions, we have a outpost. Why? Because we're bringing security down to the grassroots level. So we believe in the cliche. When you see something, please say something and we'll do something about that. This is why we're drawing the curtain on today's edition of the program. After the main Babawale Afolabi.
In southwestern Zimbabwe, crops in the Mangwe area have withered away. Even local farmers will be among Zimbabweans who need aid until next year. That includes 42-year-old Singazi Sibanda, a mother of 3 children.
All my crops were burned by the sun. I don't know how we will get to next year and where we will be. The crops died at early stages.
Mangwe is one of the districts in Zimbabwe most affected by drought. Local officials say some people may have to go work in nearby Botswana or in urban areas to survive.
Boreholes have no water. Dams are drying up. There is no grazing grass for animals. Maybe some hay will be brought from other areas to feed the local animals.
Food is being distributed in hard-hit areas. Evelyn Ndlovu is the Minister of Matabeleland South, also in the Mangwe area. She says the government is in touch with international aid agencies to get more help. Officials say the crisis is growing worse in the region due to recurring droughts caused by the El Nino weather pattern.
The crop situation in Zimbabwe is very poor at the moment, and we expect that the number of people who will not have adequate stock from their own production to last them until the next harvest, which would be then by the middle of next year, that number of people who will not be able to meet their food needs over that full period will go up.
Zimbabwe's government says the 2024 grain harvest will yield about 868,000 tons of grain, an alarming 62% drop from last year's total and far below the target that officials had set for this year. Aid groups say they are stepping up efforts to help.
We're focusing on this January to March period, which we have identified is the peak of the lean season. It's the most critical period. But as you're mentioning, it's also important for us to provide additional opportunities so that even throughout the year, people have options and means to support their families and households.
A message that brings some hope to people like Sibanda. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe's information minister says the country is working to ease food insecurity by waiving taxes on the importation of rice, maize, potato seed, cooking oil, and genetically modified maize for stock feed in a bid to lower prices for average Zimbabweans. Columbus Mavunga, VOA News, Mangwe, Zimbabwe.
Welcome once again to The Sage. And as usual, it's always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for always tuning in to listen to us. Thank you for sharing our story, sharing our journey, and sharing the life we live in C4C. Over the past few weeks, we began a mega series of great importance. After a great deal of thought and brainstorming, we titled it Living Out Our Hope for a Compassionate Nigeria. We felt that actually the real answer to Nigeria's problem is a compassion, insufficient compassion amongst our people. If we all learned to be kinder to our next door neighbor, to the person we meet on the street, to the person we work with, to members of our own family, if we learn simple acts of encouragement and kindness, it translates into a people that are better able to live this life and to be happy and contented. We will, in doing that, also help to support ourselves and our neighbors financially and otherwise. And in line with that concept, we've run a series of sub-themes, subtopics. There was a program we did on everyday kindness, as our effort to show you don't have to be a mega millionaire or rich or to be kind, to be generous, even with the little you have, to share your widow's mite. We went on to discuss examples of everyday people doing things in the healthcare sector, for instance, to help. We went on to discuss small and medium-scale enterprises as a mechanism, a crucial mechanism for improving the economy of our country, for helping families and individuals to be economically independent, to be truly empowered. Because we believe that economic empowerment is one of the strongest mechanisms of real empowerment. It is something we in C4C believe with passion. And it is in line with that, despite the fact that we don't have much at all in terms of resources. We embarked on an ambitious program 7 years ago to support, train, and equip young entrepreneurs because we believe they are so critical to the economy of our country. These young entrepreneurs, when provided business management knowledge and skills, self-empowerment, self-motivation, when we turn them into a network, when we teach them social responsibility, that they become strong, irresistible forces that move the economy positively for themselves, their families, and indeed our country. The economy of our country depends on medium and small scale enterprises. They provide jobs, they provide the food, oh yes. And there's double dividend in the fact that because of the virtue of their being young, the benefits they bring to our country will last much longer because they have naturally a longer lifespan. And so join us again. Joyfully we welcome you to the continuation of our series on medium and small scale enterprises. We've used this opportunity to showcase many wonderful young entrepreneurs from various parts of the country, but particularly from the C4C program, because within that program we have witnessed remarkable successes. This week in particular, It is with joy and indeed humility that we bring a remarkable young man on set. A young man who I personally, despite my extensive travels across the world, felt privileged to have encountered. You will know why as we discuss. But before we discuss, let me introduce him to you. So please join me as I welcome Kingsley Joshua Omagbo.
Thank you very much, Mommy.
To the set.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this privilege to have me on the stage again. Thank you so much. Why I call you Mommy, it's you build a great foundation. You build a character in me. You've built a person with this high sense of engagement when it comes to building of mind and also creating impact in the sphere of business, in the world of business. You have actually done a lot. So it's only a mother who had the love of a child in her that she will impact such character into that child. So it's a privilege having you, Mommy. Thank you once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kingsley. I'm sure my audience already understand why I consider it sheer pleasure each time I interact with Kingsley. Let us start our story from the beginning. That is the right place. And therefore, let me start this story and this discussion from the beginning, from our first encounter with Kingsley. Let me tell the story of how C4C met Kingsley. We had advertised for fellows, potential fellows as usual. He had done his online application. My team of reviewers reviewed. Indeed, he was shortlisted and therefore invited for interview. On the day of interview, I will never forget the experience, the memory of it. When he came to his turn, my team came to me while the interview and said, there's somebody who, is there who has a physical challenge. I said, really? Okay, perhaps we should try and move him earlier into the, long line of interview. And when it was his turn, you wouldn't believe it. He was on the floor, but with his hands deftly moving himself. He moved with confidence up to us at the interview spot, sat on the chair, ready for interview, ready for discussion. And when he opened his mouth, I wondered whether we had sort of gotten confused and had borrowed a broadcaster from Radio Nigeria or something to come and pretend to be one of the candidates. He was so eloquent. He was so eloquent, and he still is eloquent. He was confident. He carried his head high. He was sure he knew what he wanted to do and was not apologetic to anyone if he needed to move around using his hands on the floor. We were all so awed. We were all so full of admiration. And Kingsley has lived up to every expectation. He, of course, made it, became a fellow, part of the 2023 set, and has lived up to every expectation and indeed graduated. And so, Kingsley, let's my audience share and understand, where did it all come from? How did you get to where you are? How have you faced your life's challenges? Tell us really the right terminology. I hesitate when I say challenged, physically challenged. I'm not sure that is the correct term. And there was a time you used to be handicapped. Then we were told that no, you don't say handicapped. They're challenged. But I hear that even that challenge is now old-fashioned.
Yeah.
So tell us about the terminology, and tell us, flow at your own. Tell us about how did you get to be where you are, where you found yourself ready to pitch and claim a place with an organization that's like C4C because you wanted to be a passionate entrepreneur.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mommy. The right terminology to use now, it's differently abled. Because when you said
differently
abled, yeah, because you are human, you're mentally stable, you're very okay, just that some parts of you, it's not really working as others. So you are just differently, but the ability to do all things is there. And you can say, well, particularly me, I'm a wheelchair personality. I use wheelchair to aid movement and any other motorized machines to aid movement. And really, life has been beautiful because they said whatever God created, He made them beautiful. So life has been beautiful because God is involved. The Creator is involved. So I grew up as a young child in a very middle class family whom our parents loved so much and had just nothing to actually build a better foundation for. But as time keeps going, I discovered that formal education is not just everything I need. I discovered there's one thing that really pushed as I journeyed to become a skilled person. Going to school, I discovered that all my peers wear sandals to school. But because my father cannot get a very fitting shoes to my legs,
because the leg
because the legs
was not normal.
It was not a kind of a normal legs. They're a bit paralyzed and the shapes are being curved. So the normal shoes cannot really fit into the legs. But I love to be complete. I love to look like my other peers. So I was thinking, how do I do it? Did I go into making this footwear myself? I just started. Without going to any instructor, vocational instructor, I just started making something for myself. I went to the market, tried to get things. I started with cartons. Yes, I remember. I started with cartons. I put gums on cartons and I began to make shoes that fit into my legs. I said, that means shoes can be made for me. That's how the passion kept growing and I began to make shoes. It got to a point that I feel, no, I shouldn't just be doing this for myself alone.
But were you able to wear the cartons?
Yes, I wore them, but they are not durable because they are cartons. Mm-hmm. And I began to seek attention for persons who understood how shoes are made. I started visiting the shoemakers' workshops, and gradually I picked up. I began to use the shoes materials.
About how old were you at this time?
I was actually around 7, 8.
Really?
Yes, I was about 7, 8 when I started that. So continually, I kept making shoes for myself. Keep making good shoes for myself. To a point, everyone in school admire it, in church they admire. Now you wear good shoes, you no longer walk barefooted.
By this time you'd graduated to the leather, eh?
Yes, I've graduated to the leather, yes.
Yeah.
No longer using cartons, yes. Okay. No longer using cartons. So I began to use leathers and norras to produce my own footwears. Every teacher was happy. Now I wear footwear. I no longer crawl with barefoot to the class anymore. And what really gets my attention the most to continue, it's then when I crawl with barefoot, I discover my feet are hardened. The skins are becoming so hardened. But when I started using shoes, I discover automatically it's lightening and the skin is becoming normal.
Yeah, because you're not scuffing it so much.
To the ground. So continually, I keep building it. Until I get to the SS1, where I wrote junior WAEC, the stay-at-home period to get admission into SS1, I found someone who is good at shoes. So I went to him and I registered with him, and he took me for free. God will ever bless him. Yeah, he took me for free and I started learning. I began to make very good shoes. At that point, I began to make shoes and sell them. My parents then discovered this can be a very good business to venture in, and they encouraged me. And I began to learn and learn and learn until now that I produce shoes for people who are high class in the government, who are really business tycoon, who are really fashion designers, who are really models. I produce footwears for them. And today, footwear has really, it's in fact, it's everything. It's everything. God has used it to build a very good capacity in me living independently. Thank you.
What a remarkable story. I'm awed, you know, even more than I knew, even when you were one of our fellows, and you know, and so on. Because the fact that at 7, you were already into, you know, thinking, I can do something. I can do something to improve my lot. I don't care if people laugh at me in school, perhaps, because children can be unkind. You were still, it didn't crush you. What it did was to drive you to experimenting, even if it had to be with a carton. It's a remarkable story. It's a remarkable and beautiful story that demonstrates very clearly that we should never allow fate to become our master. We must remain the master of our own fate, our own destiny. And no matter how tough the scenario we've been handed at birth and after, you can change it. Sure. It all depends on you. It's a beautiful story, and we congratulate you for that.
Thank you very much.
And you know, I jokingly asked, you know, you graduated from cartons. Yes, you graduated, you drifted naturally to where you found tutorship. You graduated to cartons. But the amazing thing about it, which shows a natural entrepreneur, is the fact that you began to sell.
Yes.
Even at a young age, even in the school, you were selling and getting some money to support yourself and take some of the burden away from your family. Somebody who almost from birth, if I may say so, was born with a determined entrepreneurial spirit, so that as a child you had embarked on it and continued. But it's a lovely story. But break it down for us, because life is never all rosy, particularly life for somebody like you who had to grapple with physical issues as well. Can you share a little? Did you have some ups? Did you have some downs? How was it on that journey?
Yes, Mommy, it's quite numerous, I would say, but I'll do justice by touching those aspects that they are unforgettable to me. Growing up as a differently abled child, I really did not find it easy because the stigma already is there. People telling you, you can work, you can do this, you can do that. Sometimes it demoralizes me, and I just feel, I go back, but I keep encouraging myself again. I have to come up again. I have to do it again. Coming to schooling have not been really easy at all, because structures are not really built accessible for persons, differently abled persons. The access to classrooms and even the arrangement of chairs are not really accessible. Sometimes you want to get into the class, and you just remember you have to climb a kind of a very tough stairs before you get into your class, and the roads networked to the school and all of that were quite challenging, and I just had to push on with all the accessibility. What's a very big challenge? Accessibility. As a child, you have less strength and you have to just push and push and push. coming to the part of where I begin to feel it's the right time, I begin to make good shoes and assessing the market. It's another very challenging moment, because people are taller than you. Like, people are taller than I, and there will be person that won't even discover there's somebody beneath, and you
don't
could
even look down to
yes,
see.
they won't look down, and you could even be matched. And severally, I've been matched by several persons,
Wow.
and all of that, and access to the market, getting before you be attended to. There are numerous people you're trying to say a word, but people won't listen because there are lots of people, and you have to pave your way until the person sees you and he gives you attention. So there's this much challenging that one face, and again, and becoming a business person, that's the very big one, and you would want to raise capital at some point, and begging has never been a lifestyle to me at all. Like, I have never given opportunity for limitations to a point that I will have to beg to do something. It has never come in mind, and it has never happened. Sometimes people even feel, okay, let's just give him something, and I'll be like, no, you are trying
That's
to.
not why, that's not why I'm here, because they look and see you and assume that you've come to beg.
Yes, you see people limiting your ability because of the physical looks of you, limiting that ability. It was a very great challenge I faced with people. Sometimes they say, we give him, he's not accepting. What kind of person are you? They say all sorts of words, and sometimes it hurts. These are the challenges I faced, getting to the point where I began to use machines for footwear productions and all of that. Most of these footwear productions are not built accessible for us. Like, I find it difficult when I began, because yet sometimes for you to like use a filing machine when I don't have mine, I had to, or started climbing a stool that's very high. I have to struggle, climb the stool before I can file. And sometimes gum application has gums, like our hands are like, I used to wheeling every day on tricycle. So the stability is there. Before you get flexibility, I had to train myself for my hands to be flexible, to apply gum properly, and all of this, like the sewing machine. The sewing machine was the one very big challenge that I face when it comes to the skill, the business of shoes. Like, the legs are not strong enough to pedal the sewing machine, the manual sewing machines. And raising capital to get the industrial was quite very expensive, which many people around me can't even afford to buy for me. No, I even save at that moment to buy for myself, because I was still operating very small. I was still even learning. So using the manual sewing machine, the legs are not strong enough to pedal. I have to look for a hand winding, and you wind with your hands, and you get tired, and you remember you're winding with your hands, and you go and wind your tricycle as well. So that's a very big job for the hands to do. So these are the challenges. But as time keep building up, I keep building. I will never stop. I must strive. I will never stop. I know one day I will get there. In fact, this is where I have to even speak little about before we get to. In fact, when I was given the industrial sewing machine by C4C.
Hold it there. Don't reveal the secrets that are to come. Don't reveal the secrets that are to come.
All right.
But it's good you mentioned it.
Yes.
To our viewers, we will stop him, because next episode, Kingsley is going to talk about his life, his journey, and what going through the one-year program for him in C4C did. You cannot afford to miss it, so I will not let him open the bag yet.
All right.
But say that I had thought I knew him, I had thought I had watched him grapple with his challenges. I had talked about his confidence, his indomitable spirit. But listening again to the things he said, I am overwhelmed. That's all I can say. Because there's so many periods in this story you had told where any average person may have given up. From the challenges, the physical challenges, which navigating the school atmosphere, whether it's the buildings that are of course not friendly for people who are differently abled, as you put it, or whether it's even transportation to get to the school, or whether it's going through the buildings or getting into your desk. Everything for you every day is a challenge. And then now you've begun the graphic description of even manipulating the machines that you need to manipulate to produce. There are challenges which the able-bodied person will not even begin to think about. And so once again, we congratulate you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
And we're very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
And we're lucky to be able to share a spirit such as yours with our audience, with our viewers.
Thank you.
Kingsley demonstrates the fact that no obstacle is too difficult to surmount. If you're determined, you will go on and on and on. As long as you are breathing and living, obstacles will be there. But when you also you are differently put together by the good Lord, greater obstacles are there. But sometimes it needs great spirits like yours to deal with them. And so we will continue this amazing interview next week. Kingsley will be with us to talk more, to talk about his interactions with C4C, and to talk about his amazing successes since his graduation from our program. You cannot afford to miss any of it. It is enthralling. Make sure you tune in next time. Kingsley, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
See you next week.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, AIT_live, and AIT Livestream 1 on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Thank you for joining us in the IT Reports. I am Sadiat Dusumo. Welcome. Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed has approved minor adjustments to the composition of the State Executive Council as part of efforts to strengthen governance and improve service delivery across the state. The development was contained in a statement issued by the Governor's Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Mukhtar Gidado. As part of the changes, the Commissioner for Commerce, Industries and Investment, Mohammed Salis Gamawa, and the immediate past Commissioner for Education, Mohammed Lawal Rimi Zayam, who was later reassigned to the Ministry of Power, Science and Technology, have exited the State Executive Council with immediate effect. The Governor also accepted the resignation of the former Commissioner for Rural Development and Special Duties, Farouk Mustafa. The statement added that the names of proposed replacements alongside other nominees to fill existing vacancies in the Cabinet have been forwarded to the Bauchi State House of Assembly for screening and confirmation. Governor Bala Mohammed expressed appreciation to the outgoing commissioners for their service and contributions to the development of the state and wished them success in their future endeavors. He reaffirmed his administration's commitment to building a more responsive, effective and result-oriented government for the benefit of the people of Bauchi State. Now, amid a growing accusation on social media linking him to the death of a female member of his staff, the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, has denied any wrongdoing, describing the claims as false, malicious, and politically motivated. He called for a thorough investigation, including an autopsy, to determine the actual cause of death. The minister made the remarks while speaking to journalists on the sidelines of the presentation of the Joint Tracking Report organized in partnership with the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, at the ministry's headquarters in Abuja on Thursday. According to Mahi, the deceased Miss Mary Habila had a documented medical history and had received treatment at the hospital into care, with records of her death condition and medical expenses available for verification. He also clarified that contrary to reports circulating online, Habila was a nurse and not a physiotherapist.
To our lawyer that autopsy should happen, and we are begging the parents to allow autopsy to happen, and I say no, it's against their culture, and so we have a statement, and only God will resolve it, because I've directed that the corpse cannot be removed until they have done autopsy. But it's very strange why an unfortunate thing that happened, is being made this. Is it that we killed a woman that was giving me injection, or that, was administering drug to us, that live in our guest house, even in my residence in Asokoro? Because it can be very annoying when people use, people's, unfortunate incident and are playing politics. Some people are calling me, we are this organization, we want to do protest, we want you to see us, what is it?
Updates on the federal government's road infrastructure program, Umahi said construction is progressing steadily on President Bola Tinubu's 4 flagship highway projects, which he said are designed to improve connectivity, facilitate trade, and stimulate economic growth across the country.
Now we've started section 1 of the Trans-Hara, 123 kilometers. We're starting with single carriageway. That gets us to the boundary of, Benue State. The other day, last week, we were there with journalists, and people marveled the extent work has gone in that place. And then we got to the Benue, boundary with Ebonyi, and we saw the work that has started, 168 kilometers, that passes through, Benue. It enters Enugu State, and then from Benue it goes to Kogi State, and then ends in Owote Bridge. So it means that by the time we finish from Owote to Apo, which is 130 kilometers, it means that we can, anybody in Southeast can be in Abuja between 2 hours and 4 hours.
They also dismissed claims that the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway is responsible for flooding in parts of Lagos. He maintained that engineering assessments indicate the project is helping to mitigate ocean surges and improve coastal resilience rather than worsening flooding. The police in Ebonyi State says it is to engage the services of a pathologist to conduct a post-mortem examination on the body of late Miss Mary Habila, a physiotherapist whose death has stirred controversy. Police authorities in a statement in Abakaliki late Wednesday said the post-mortem result would assist investigators unravel the cause of her death. Miss Mary Habila reportedly died at the Uboru private residence of Nigeria's serving Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, on June 27. The police statement explained that Habila was confirmed dead by doctors at the Dave Umahi Federal University Teaching Hospital in Uhuru, Ohio-Zara local government area of the state, after a medical emergency brought her to the facility from the minister's residence. Ebonyi State Police Command Public Relations Officer SP Joshua Okadu said preliminary findings indicated that the deceased and a colleague formed part of the medical team attached to the Minister of Works and had accompanied him to his hometown in Uboru, where she died in a room within his compound. The Commissioner of Police is said to have directed that the matter be transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department for thorough investigation after being briefed by the DPO in charge of Ohio-Zara local government. The police statement notes that the command has commenced comprehensive investigation, including engaging the services of a pathologist to conduct post-mortem examination, though the family of the deceased claimed they do not want any autopsy performed on their daughter. According to the Ebonyi State Police spokesman, the command considers the examination necessary given the sensitive nature of the case and the importance of establishing true cause of Mary Habila's death. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has overturned the Federal High Court judgment that invalidated part of the Independent National Electoral Commission's election outlines for the 2027 general elections. Delivering the late judgment, Justice Okon Abang held that the lower court inappropriately transferred with INEC's statutory powers, stressing that the electoral body has the legal authority to regulate the conduct of elections within the framework of the law.
According to the appellate court, there was no evidence that the political party which instituted the suit had been prevented or threatened from conducting its primary elections. The court noted that judicial intervention is only warranted where there is a real infringement or imminent threat to a party's legal rights. Justice Abang further ruled that the declaratory orders granted by the Federal High Court were made in error and consequently set them aside. The dispute arose from a judgment delivered by Justice Mohammed Umar of the Federal High Court in Abuja, which nullified INEC's directive requiring political parties to submit their membership registers and databases by May 10 as part of preparations for the 2027 general elections. The suit had been filed by the Youth Party, which argued that the directive conflicted with the timelines provided under the Electoral Act 2026. Trial court agreed, holding that the Electoral Act only requires political parties to submit the names and particulars of their candidates at least 120 days before the general elections, while notice of party primaries must be given to INEC at least 21 days before they are held. It concluded that INEC lacked the authority to impose an earlier deadline for the submission of membership records. Dissatisfied with the ruling, INEC appealed through its counsel, Alex Izinho, SAN, contending that the case was speculative, deprived the Commission of a fair hearing, and ought to have been dismissed for want of jurisdiction. The Commission also argued that the Federal High Court wrongly interpreted the relevant provisions of the Electoral Act and improperly restricted INEC's constitutional and statutory powers to issue administrative guidelines for the conduct of elections.
The appeal itself, which is that the law, the relevant provisions of the Electoral Act, already empowers INEC to make this timetable, giving it a timeline to conduct all election procedures in order to meet the timeline according to law. So the main interpretation the court brought was that the timeline given was only a minimum requirement. So it didn't provide for, and what INEC did not extend the timeline. All they did was say, look, we will act earlier. to be able to deliver the elections at the right time for the country.
The Court of Appeal agreed with INEC's position, allowed the appeal, and set aside the judgment of the Federal High Court, thereby restoring the challenged election guidelines. Chibuzo Okezie, AIT News, Abuja.
A Federal High Court in Abuja has issued a final warning to Omoyele Sowore, saying his defense may be closed if he fails to proceed with his case at the next hearing. Justice Mohammed Umar gave the warning after the defendant appeared in court without any member of his legal team. Sowore informed the court that his legal counsel, Olumide Fusika Sen, is currently in the United Kingdom with the court's knowledge, while another member of his legal team, Raphael Adakole, is outside the country. He appealed for a short adjournment to enable his lawyers to return and continue his defense. Opposing the request, prosecuting counsel Akinlola Kehinde Sen argued that the case had already been adjourned for the defense to serve court issued as subpoenas. Kehinde further submitted that the latest request amounted to the 11th adjournment by the defense, contrary to the provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, and urged the court to close the defense and proceed accordingly. In his ruling, Justice Umar held that the principles of fair hearing required that the defendant be given every reasonable opportunity to present his case. However, he warned that the court would not tolerate further delays.
For the opt-in time, the defense again could not go on because the defendant's counsel were not in court. And as we did the last time, we applied for the defense to be foreclosed. But the court, in its wisdom, decided that it would give the defense just the last chance to come and present its defense. And failure to do that on the next adjourned date, the defense will stand foreclosed.
Adjourned to 22nd of July 2026 for Sowore to continue his defense. So staying with the High Court in Abuja has refused to grant bail to John Agbo, a man standing trial of allegations that he helped coordinated attacks on schools in the Federal Capital Territory. Justice Joyce Abdulmalik dismissed the bail application after the prosecution concluded its case by calling its fourth and final witness. Agbo is facing terrorism and cybercrime charges over an alleged plot targeting schools, students and teachers in Abuja. In her ruling, Justice Abdulmalik held that the defense failed to provide sufficient assurances that the defendant would appear for trial if released. She consequently ordered that Agbo remain in the custody of the Nigerian Correctional Service pending the conclusion of the trial. During the proceedings, an operative of the State Security Services narrated how investigators tracked Agbo and his alleged associates. The court also admitted and played a video recording of Agbo's interview with investigators as part of the prosecution's evidence. With the prosecution now closing its case, the court adjourned the matter until 24th of September, when the defendant is expected to begin presenting his defense. Section 77, subsection 5 and 6, and as well as 7 and 84(2) of the Electoral Act 2026, which regulates membership registrars of political parties and the procedure for the nomination of candidates for the 2027 general elections, have been pulled down by the Court of Appeal in Abuja. The appellate court, in a unanimous decision, held that these sections were inconsistent with provisions of Section 221 and 222 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which gave political parties the right to decide whom to sponsor in an election. A three-member panel of the appellate court, led by Justice Balkisu Bello, gave the judgment following an appeal by the Zenith Party, ZP, against the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The party had filed an appeal challenging the dismissal of a suit it filed to query the constitutionality of some provisions of the Electoral Act 2026 relating to membership registers of political parties and the conduct of primary elections. Justice Mohammed Umar of the Federal High Court in Abuja had on May 5 dismissed ZP's suit as lacking in merit. However, dissatisfied with the judgment, the party approached the appellate court, praying it to, among others, determine whether the state provisions of the Electoral Act are superior to the powers donated to political parties by the 1999 Constitution as amended. The party urged the appellate court to determine if the electoral law was not an attempt to usurp the right of political parties to decide how to conduct their internal affairs. In the judgment, with its lead delivered by Justice Eberechi Yesamwike, the appellate court noted that Section 177 and 182 of the 1999 Constitution as amended already listed the qualifying and disqualifying factors for political parties and candidates in an election. The court had held that no other condition contained in a subsidiary law could disqualify an individual already qualified by the Constitution. Section 77, subsection 5 of the Electoral Act stipulates that only persons whose names are contained in the registers submitted to INEC not later than 21 days before the date fixed for primaries, congresses, or conventions will be eligible to vote. 2 kidnapped victims rescued, 2 bandits killed in joint security operation in Kwara State. Now, the 2 kidnapped children have been rescued by a joint security team of the Department of State Services, DSS, and forest guards during a rescue operation carried out this Thursday in a forest between Oba Isen and Owo Oniru and Inisi and Ifidulu local government areas of Kwara State. The operation resulted in the killing of 2 armed bandits, while several others escaped with gun wounds as security operatives intensify follow-up operations to track down the fleeing suspects. The rescued victims were identified as 16-year-old Fatima Aziz and 5-year-old Ibrahim Aziz. Security operatives recovered 1 AK-47 rifle, 1 single-barrel gun, and 1 loaded magazine, 9 rounds of ammunition, a mini solar panel, and food items from the kidnappers' hideout. The operation forms part of the federal government's ongoing multi-agency counter-terrorism and anti-kidnapping efforts aimed at dismantling criminal groups operating in forest areas across the country. Osun State Police Command has successfully smashed a suspected gang of kidnappers, arrested some suspects, and rescued 1 victim in a sting operation carried out by security operatives from the command. The Commissioner of Police, Ibrahim Gotan, paraded the arrested suspect in Osogbo, the Osun State capital. He explained that the operation was carried out following intelligence reports gathered by the police on the activities which led to a successful outcome. He said the Nigerian police conducted an intelligence-driven operation to monitor ransom payment processed to a designated drop-off point along the Ibadan-Ife Expressway, while the victims successfully rescued and hurt.
7 May 2026. Some suspected kidnappers invaded a settlement at Ijebu Ijesha in an attempt to kidnap one Yahya Suleiman. But police foiled the operation. During the operation, policemen were able to arrest the principal suspect, one Umar Adamu, who was paraded on the 9th May 2026. Further technical analysis and actionable intelligence led to the arrest of another suspect. The sum of 2,270,800 naira was recovered at the scene.
Another significant breakthrough in his sustained efforts to rid the state of criminal elements with the arrest of 3 suspected ritualists and cultists in Ire, Osun State.
Upon information gathering that some suspected cultists are terrorizing Ire and its environs, the same operatives of the VCRU immediately swung into action and started monitoring the activities. Towards credible intelligence and proactive policies, efforts by the operatives of the command.
The Commissioner of Police urged members of the public to continue providing timely and credible information to police and other security agencies in the state. Bauchi State Government has expressed its commitment to establishing strong partnerships with the Tunisian government and foreign investors on major development projects in the state. Governor Bala Mohammed made this known during a bilateral meeting with a high-level Tunisian delegation led by the Tunisian ambassador to Nigeria at the Government House in Bauchi, northeast Nigeria.
The delegation, comprising engineers and business leaders, was led by Ambassador Mohsen Antid, who described the visit as part of efforts to strengthen bilateral relations between Tunisia and Nigeria, particularly with Bauchi State, in the areas of water supply, power generation, and security for sustainable economic growth and development.
This visit constructed, a cornerstone to our partnership.
Responding, Governor Bala Mohammed said the initiative forms part of his administration's efforts to provide reliable alternatives to existing energy sources, reduce dependence on inadequate power supply, and improve the delivery of essential public services across the state.
We, as Sahelian states of northern Nigeria, we have very long-standing historical relationship. We have to look forward to you to help us conquer poverty, insecurity, and at the same time, governance. Governance means good governance, providing water, providing good schools, providing power that will be used to generate small holder businesses. And in addition, we have been discussing with them the issue of security. Security, where we need to really have monitoring and evaluation of our forests.
The delegation had earlier inspected key facilities and infrastructure across Bauchi State to assess the feasibility of the proposed projects before implementation decisions are taken. Suleiman Issa, AIT News Bauchi.
On building stronger political and economic synergies among the federal, state and local governments has been identified as critical to achieving sustainable infrastructure, economic growth and socio-cultural development. The special advisor to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on public communications and orientation, Sunday Dare, stated this during the Renewed Hope Ambassadors Media Tour of projects executed by Tinubu administration and the Imo State Governor in Owerri, the Imo State capital.
Hope Ambassadors Media Tour arrived in Owerri, the Imo State capital, after visiting Ebonyi, Enugu, and Abia states in previous weeks to assess the impact of federal government projects across the southeast region. The visit to Imo State, led by the Director of Media and Publicity of the Renewed Hope Ambassadors, Tunde Rahman, highlighted what the group described as the benefits of President Bola Tinubu's fuel subsidy removal policy, particularly in facilitating the execution of developmental projects across the states.
It shows clearly that the government is a thinking government and that the idea of removal of subsidy was well thought out. Normally when you have reforms like that, it will be painful in the beginning, but ultimately everybody will see the beauty, the gains of those reforms, as we have seen, whether in the Northwest that we went to the other day when we started the Renewed Hope Ambassador Tour, or in Enugu, Imo, and Ebonyi that we visited. All the governors were telling us that there will be more money for them. There will be more fiscal space for them to be able to implement projects for the people. So that policy has been well thought out. And if the full benefit has not come up to that, it will come in the fullness of time.
Among the projects inspected on the first day of the tour was the expansion of the Samuel Mbakwe International Cargo Airport, aimed at boosting commercial and cargo activities, and the 36-kilometer Owerri-Obo-Umuahia road, designed to improve connectivity and stimulate industrialization across the state.
One of the requirements for this cargo terminal to take off is that extension of the runway, which is doing together to make sure that when they want to start, everything will start off at the same time.
this is a very important road because this is a road that links quite a number of communities, more than 4 or 5 local governments, this little stretch alone. And before now, we have sent you pictures of how it was before. With videos, you will see it. It was horrible. There's so many potholes, and it defied all previous administrations. But as you can see, we passed through it. It's very smooth, no pothole, with solar-powered street lights.
Other projects include the 36 kilometers Owerri-Okigwe Road, covering over 7 different towns and villages, and the upgrade of the Federal Medical Center Owerri to a University Teaching Hospital Owerri. Has Akudi, AIT News, Owerri.
Now, 1 out of every 4 Nigerians has mental issues, that's according to the World Health Organization. To address this situation characterized by widespread depression, anxiety, suicidal tendencies, and substance abuse, some women health right advocates in Lagos are now calling for a community approach to mental health support for vulnerable groups across the country.
Severe shortage of professionals that leaves less than 500 psychiatrists to a population exceeding 2 million. The struggle to meet basic economic needs amidst rising inflation, unemployment, and daily stress for millions of Nigerians leads to high rates of hardship, anxiety, depression, and suicidal tendencies. How this affects women and frontline workers in the field of sexual and gender-based violence informed this training workshop by the Women's Rights and Health Project (WRAP) in partnership with the African Women's Development Fund.
This would add value to them because as mental health ambassadors, it shows that they are like the forefront in going to their community, talking about mental health, caring for people. After these sessions, I expect the participants should understand the basic knowledge about mental health. They should be able to provide PFA or administer psychological first aid in their community.
There is need for people to understand that mental health is as important as every other thing. We are saying the police people, when you are interacting with people, you should know that people are in need of not just writing statements and all that. You need to look at the mental state of that person that is talking to you. Mental health, everybody should be concerned. You cannot say until you are in Yaba left or Aro before you think you have mental issue.
What I've learned now, I will put it in practice and I'm going to step it down so all the women with disability in Lagos State.
With the theme, Building Community Leadership for Mental Health Promotion, Trauma Healing and Psychological First Aid, Caregivers, persons with disabilities and peer champions benefited from the initiative. Oshuomo Wadanius, AIT News, Lagos.
Nigeria's House of Representatives has called the Nigerian youth to take center stage in shaping the nation's democratic future by actively participating in the 2027 general elections, stressing that the quality of Nigeria's democracy will largely depend on the choices, conduct, and civic engagement of young people. This appeal was made on Thursday at a youth town hall, one of the flagship events of the 2026 National Assembly Open Week held at the National Assembly Complex in Abuja.
It is very important that young Nigerians are given the space to speak.
Delivering his goodwill message, the Minister of Youth Development applauded the National Assembly for institutionalizing the Youth Town Hall, describing it as a landmark initiative that has opened the legislature to meaningful youth engagement. Nigerian youths were asked to move beyond discussions and translate their passion into sustained civic engagement before, during, and after the 2027 general elections. No fewer than 1,900 butchers drawn from the 44 local government areas of Kano State have received empowerment kits aimed at improving hygiene and meat processing, enhancing public health and strengthening the informal sector. Speaking at the presentation ceremony in Kano on Thursday, Governor Abba Yusuf said the initiative will improve the beneficiaries' livelihoods, boost the state's economy and help reduce diseases associated with unhygienic meat processing.
Butchers play a vital role in Kano's food supply chain, processing meat daily for thousands of households, restaurants, and other food outlets. However, poor sanitary conditions in some slaughter and processing facilities have continued to pose public health risks, including foodborne diseases. To address these challenges, the Kano State government has empowered more than 1,900 butchers under its Economic Empowerment Program, while also organizing them into a structured meat processing cluster within the state's informal sector.
Let me say that the butchering profession occupies a unique and indispensable position in Kano State. It supports of households, strengthens our economy, contributes immensely to food security, and provides raw materials for several allied industries, particularly our leather and tannery sector. This quarter tubes shall include dedicated sections for butchers, meat processing activities, leather processing, and tannery operations.
Governor Abba Yusuf says the initiative is in line with his administration's Kano First agenda.
Creating opportunities, supporting enterprise, adding value to our local resources, and ensuring that prosperity reaches every hardworking citizen of the state.
According to the state government, the empowerment program complements the state's government's ongoing efforts to revive cottage outlets and rehabilitate moribund industries to meet modern production standards and stimulate economic growth. Enemona Ocheme, AIT News, Kano.
And to Plateau State, where Governor Caleb Mutfwang says Nigeria's security challenges must be properly understood and addressed through a coordinated approach to achieve lasting peace. The governor stated this while receiving the new general officer commanding GOC 3 Division, Nigerian Army, and Commander of Operation Enduring Peace, Major General Maxwell Dangana, at the Government House in Jos.
Plateau State is the host to the headquarters of 3 Division Nigerian Army and Operation Enduring Peace, the military operation responsible for tackling insecurity in Plateau State and parts of Bauchi and Kaduna states. In line with the established practice, one of the first official engagements of the newly posted General Officer commanding 3 Division is a courtesy visit to the Plateau State Government House. Welcoming the new GOC, Governor Caleb Mutfwang commended the Nigerian Army for its sustainable efforts in improving security across Plateau State. He stressed that the Nigerian security challenges must be viewed in their proper context to enable the development of effective and lasting solutions.
My perspective on the security challenges in Nigeria is that our armed forces must see their duty not as a peacekeeping force, but actually protecting the sovereignty of Nigeria against enemies of state. If we don't look at it like that, we'll be making a classical mistake.
The outgoing General Officer Commanding, Major General Folusho Olinola, thanked the Plateau State government and the people of the state for their support and cooperation throughout his 18-month tenure. He appealed for the same support to be extended to his successor, Major General Maxwell Dangana.
This has also been my pinnacle of command in the Army, and I must say that it is indeed very, very rewarding. We know how we met it 18 months ago and how it is today. There have been ups and there have been downs, but I'm glad to see that there were much more ups than there were downs.
Major General Maxwell Dangana is assuming command of the 3 Division Nigerian Army and Operation Enduring Peace, succeeding Major General Folusho Onilola after his 18 months in office. Walker Squawkfoot, AIT News, Jos.
Now, behind every police officer protecting the public is a family making sacrifices that often go unnoticed. These hidden struggles are now driving renewed efforts to improve the welfare, health and economic well-being of police families as the Police Officers' Wives Association POWA begins its 2026 National Convention in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Unannounced visits to police barracks ahead of the convention exposed the daily realities facing many police families. National President of POWA, Chief Olufumilola Disu, said the association would continue to develop initiatives driven by the real needs of police families.
That experience has strengthened my resolve that under my leadership, POWA will continue to build programs that respond to real needs, not assumptions. Health care, educational, mental wellness, economic empowerment, and support for widows and children are not just programs, they are promises.
Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu, reaffirmed the force's commitment to supporting welfare initiatives in partnership with POWA.
As police officers, we are often called upon to work under difficult and sometimes dangerous conditions. The demands of policing require long hours away from home, exposure to significant risk, and the burden of making difficult decisions in the service of our nation. Behind every dedicated officer is a family that provides strength, encouragement, and stability.
Representing First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, wife of the Minister of Defense, Ogogo Musa, commended the resilience of police wives and encouraged them to use the convention to strengthen one another.
As wives of police officers, you carry many responsibilities at home while supporting your husband, whose duty often keep them away from their families. Your patience, your sacrifice, encouragement, and support provide the stability that allows them to serve our nation.
You are still watching AIT Reports. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll bring you more reports. Please stay.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, AIT_live, and AIT Livestream 1 on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Thank you for still staying with us. Vice President Kashim Shettima has reaffirmed the commitment of Tinubu administration to prioritize the Nigerian child through targeted investments in health, nutrition, education, and social protection. He stated this on Thursday in Abuja while receiving a delegation from the United Nations Children's Fund, that's UNICEF, led by its Executive Director, Catherine Russell.
The Vice President listed key programs including the Nutrition 774 Initiative, Renewed Hope Child Support Program, Nigeria 2050 Child Foresight Analysis, Generation Unlimited Nigeria, and the National Human Capital Development Program. He noted that over 7.6 billion has already been mobilized under the Child Nutrition Fund to reach millions of women and children. Senator Shettima said President Tinubu has declared 2026 as the Year of Family and Social Protection, with the Renew Hope Baby Support Initiative as the implementation mechanism. He added that the HCD program aims to place Nigeria among the world's top 80 countries on Human Capital Index by 2030.
The greatest anxiety is that we never fall or falter in building a society that equips every child with opportunities worthy of their talent, one in which they can compete competently with their peers across the world. That conviction has shaped our relationship with UNICEF. And this visit could not have come at a better time. We have inherited profound economic and social pressures that demand partnership with trusted global development institutions such as UNICEF.
UNICEF Executive Director Ms. Ruzel commended the structural reforms under the Tinubu administration and reaffirmed UNICEF's commitment to remain Nigeria's long-term partner.
Talked about the importance of investing in children, making sure that they're healthy and nourished and educated. I think the meeting was an excellent discussion of the very important and integrated partnership.
The Coordinating Minister of Health, Professor Muhammad Ali Patil, who also praised UNICEF's support in vaccine procurement and technical assistance across health and social protection sectors. Mustafa Muhammad, AIT News, Abuja.
The Nigerian government has called for a strategic, equitable and resilient partnership between Africa and Europe to addressing mounting global geopolitical challenges. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Bianca Odumegwu-Ojukwu, made the call while speaking on a panel 6 Geopolitics at the Portugal Euro-Africa Forum 2026. The forum themed How Will Africa and Europe Navigate Global Geopolitical Turmoil? The minister noted that the current international landscape marked by armed conflicts, economic fragmentation, terrorism, climate change, food security, insecurity and disruption to global supply chains requires deeper cooperation anchored on mutual respect and shared responsibility. She stressed that Africa must no longer be perceived solely in terms of humanitarian challenges or as a source of raw materials. Instead, the continent should be recognized as a strategic partnership with vast human capital, abundant natural resources, growing markets, and a revisiting innovative capacity. The minister reaffirmed that Nigeria's foreign policy under the Renewed Hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is focused on strategic engagement, economic diplomacy, regional stability, and mutual beneficial partnerships. Nigeria has called an economic to ECOWAS to tackle the decisive and collective position against the rising wave of xenophobic and Afrophobic attacks in South Africa. In a statement issued in Abuja, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Kemebie Biefan, the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, condemned the targeted harassment, assault, and killings of Africans by certain groups in South Africa. The ambassador made the call on the margins of the 56th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council in Freetown, Sierra Leone. He described the attacks on citizens of other African countries as unacceptable and a direct affront to African unity, solidarity, and the principles of African Union. The minister urged the Council to adopt a firm, strongly worded resolution for immediate transmission to the African Union in line with an earlier proposal by Ghana to ensure a sustainable and coordinated response to the crisis. On regional security, he proposed a sustained dialogue with the Alliance of Sahelian States, AES, to strengthen joint action against terrorism, violent extremism, and transnational organized crimes. It's now time to bring you sports. Please stay.
Welcome to Sports Track. I am Osai Bovo Sifu. Argentina and Spain will renew their growing rivalry when both teams meet on Sunday. That is in the 2026 FIFA World Cup final, with all eyes on the first ever competitive clash between Lionel Messi and Lamine Yamal. The match has added significance as Messi, widely regarded as one of the greatest player in football history, faces a teenager many believe could carry the game into a new era. Their meeting comes nearly 2 decades after famous 2007 charity photo shoot in which a young Messi unknowingly head and bat a 5-month-old Yamal. While Messi is chasing the second World Cup title to further cement his legendary status, Yamal is aiming to crown a remarkable rise by his lifting the trophy for the first time in his career. The final promises to be more than just a battle for football's biggest prize. It is a symbolic meeting of the sport, past, present, and future. France and Bayern Munich winger, that is Mikel Olise, is reportedly keen on a move to Real Madrid this summer. Report in France claimed that the 24-year-old has told his international teammate at the FIFA World Cup that joining the Spanish giant is his top priority and has sought advice from Real Madrid stars Kylian Mbappe and Tchouameni. Olise enjoyed a standard season with Bayern Munich registering 16 goals last season and 27 assists in 39 matches. He has also right now lead the assist chart at the World Cup right there in North America. Bayern Munich, however, are reluctant to sell the former Crystal Palace star, who still has 3 years remaining on his contract, with teammate Dayot Upamecano reportedly urging him to stay. Although Real Madrid have yet to make official contact, Olise's impressive performance have made him one of Europe's most sought-after attacking player. And away from that, Bayelsa United Football Club has unveiled experienced football tactician Abdul May Kaba as its new technical advisor and chief coach, alongside Ngozi Elechi as assistant coach. The unveiling ceremony held at the Samson Siasia Stadium in Yenagoa, and it was witnessed by the Bayelsa State Deputy Governor Peter Akbe, football stakeholders and supporters of the club.
Determined to secure an immediate return to the Nigeria Premier Football League, Bayelsa United officially begins a new chapter with the appointment of Abdul Maikada to lead the club's rebuilding process following its relegation to the Nigeria National League. Performing the unveiling, Bayelsa State Deputy Governor Peter Akbe tasked the new technical crew with restoring the club's top-flight status while nurturing young football talents.
Our target is, within this one season, go back to the Premier League. That's our target, and that's our charge. And we'll be happy to see Bayelsa United having 60–70% of indigenes. That is when you have developed the sport.
There's only one goal we have, and that is to return Bayelsa United FC back to the Premier, and that is where we rightly belong.
After signing a one-year contract, Abdul Maikada expresses confidence in his team's ability to revive Bayelsa United, promising to deploy his wealth of experience to return the Prosperity Boys to winning ways.
Bayelsa State is ambitious, and they want to be back in the Premier League this particular season. So that motivates me to come to Bayelsa. Expect to see a very good brand of football with Bayelsa United.
Maikada, who also serves as chief coach of Nigeria's under-20 national team, the Flying Eagles, has previously handled Aqua United, Rangers International, Kano Pillars, Enyimba, and Wiki Tourists. Onisofin Owe, AIT News, Yenagoa.
And finally, on the sports segment, the Niger Tornadoes Football Club of Minna is set to return to the Bako Kotangora Stadium ahead of the start of the 2026-27 Nigeria Professional Football League season, following the total renovation and remodeling of the stadium. The permanent secretary of the Ministry of Sports Development, Nuhu Gaba, and the chairman of the club, Abubakar Kuso, confirmed the upgrade after assessing the level of work 11 days after the contract was awarded.
Niger Tornadoes played their last home games in Minna in the 2024-2025 season and were banned by the league management due to the poor nature of the stadium. The club recently resumed matches at the Bako Kotangora Memorial Stadium against Shooting Stars on May 24 after rehabilitation work was carried out. The venue was, however, barred by the NPFL mid-season, forcing the team to adopt alternative venues such as Lafia and Kaduna. A significant upgrade is currently being carried out to upgrade the stadium to a FIFA standard ahead of the 2026-2027 season.
I'm highly impressed by the structural or civil work I can say, the drainages and whatever it takes, the markings, the standardization, everything is up and accurate.
As an ex-player that he is, he made sure that the pitch is FIFA standard, and by his grace, during the time of His Excellency Babu, we'll have Super Eagles coming here to host the match, inshallah.
Managing Director of the Diamond Orange Limited, the construction company, Isaac Oboyano, said the new all-weather synthetic pitch will provide a durable playing surface capable of hosting football matches and other sporting activities throughout the year.
Our grass has been imported from Turkey. The fiber goalposts, everything that we make Bako Kotambura Stadium to be an international pitch is available.
Earlier, while handing over the stadium to the construction company, Kuso gave a 40-day completion date, but with the pace of the work at about 60%, Oboyano said they will deliver not only before the due date, but based on specification and FIFA standards. Zachary Omale, AIT News, Mina.
And that's sports. Many thanks for watching. I am Osaibovo Sifo.
Thank you so much, Osaibovo Sifo. Now, correctional centers are institutions designed to focus on rehabilitation, psychological well-being, and skill development of inmates rather than just punishment. The Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, said this in Abuja at the 2026 African Correctional Services Association Regional Conference on Prisoner Clarification and the Use of Technology in Prisons in Africa.
The conference is aimed at reinforcing Africans' collective commitment to building correctional systems that uphold human dignity, enhance institutional security, and support the successful rehabilitation and reintegration of offenders through innovation, collaboration, and adherence to international standards. The Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, called for stronger information sharing among law enforcement agencies within countries and across borders.
And we must start to see our inmates, not just as inmates, but as awaiting assets to our various nations. It means that the effort has to be deliberate in making sure that once someone runs against the law, does not mean the person can no longer be useful to the society.
Effective prisoner classification is therefore not merely an administrative exercise. It is a strategic tool for enhancing institutional security, protecting vulnerable inmates, deploying resources efficiently, and delivering targeted rehabilitation programs.
Chairman of the African Correctional Services Association and National Commissioner of the Department of Correctional Services, South Africa, emphasized the importance of technology in modern offender management through digital case management systems, biometric identification, and improved correctional operations.
To safely manage increasingly complex prisoner profiles, we must enforce transparent, robust intake assessments and risk classification frameworks.
Prisoners' classification is one of the cornerstone of effective prison management. It provides foundation for informed decision making.
The conference brought together heads of correctional services, policymakers, correctional experts, development partners, and delegates from 11 African countries. Opeta Ago, AIT News, Abuja.
Well, that's AIT Reports. I am Sadiat Dosumo. Thank you so much for staying with us.
Forced in Zeberset Construction Limited to execute